This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Great. Can everyone on the phone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. So we're going to get started. Thank you all for tuning in. Also for folks who came in person, thank you so much. We are hosting this third convening of the LGBTQ plus subcommittee. Talk about census outreach among our specific community. It's hosted in partnership with Equality California. So thank you so much to our partners for providing a lot of great content and advice, etc., and really leading this census effort at the statewide level. So thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started by going around and just saying our name and organization. So I'll start. My name is Alessia Simmons. I'm the outreach manager for the Alameda County Complete Count Committee, and we'll start with the folks that are in the room.
Sure. I am Sam. I am with Our Family Coalition.
I'm Erica. I'm on the volunteer board for the ACLU Alameda County Paul Robeson chapter, and also on the board for the PFLAG Oakland East Bay chapter.
I'm Sharon McKellar, and I'm with the Oakland Public Library, and in particular, I started and am the supervising librarian in charge of our Gender Identity and Awareness Task Force. So we're doing a lot of work around the what sex are you question.
Yeah.
And I'm Benson Jaw, I'm the partnership specialist working for U.S. Census Bureau. I'm kind of responsible for the LGBTQ's outreach into the area.
So great. Thank you. And then to our folks on the phone.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Roy with Equality California.
I'm Martha Krieger. I'm in Fremont with the Fremont LGBTQ Task Force and Alameda County Commission on the Status of Women.
All right, then it looks like we have Kim Baranek with Public Health. Also Jeremy Payne online from Equality California. And I think that's all of us. So thank you so much for coming. We're going to jump right into a presentation by Adrienne. So Adrienne, I'll just let you take it away.
Hi, everyone. Adrienne here again. Let me just make sure we can all see my screen. Say yes, please. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
And on top of that, can you hear me okay? Is the sound quality cool?
Loud and clear, Adrienne.
Yay! Thank you so much for having us. We're super grateful to be on board. As you probably heard Martha and I speaking, we love this census work, and we're super excited to keep pushing forward as we get to the next stage, right? So again, Adrienne Roy, Equality California. We are living and breathing all things census, both Jeremy and I. And today, our hope is to do like a very broad reminder of what this is all about, which I know most folks in this room or on this call are already aware of. Then get right into what's at stake, not only for us, but also the communities that intersect with ours. And then the jelly of the donuts, as it were, the collateral and tools that we are using here at Equality California that we're also sharing broadly with our coalition partners. And in fact, I would just say a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in this presentation is from those resources that I'm going to share with you at the end. So without much further ado, shall we? This is so weird to see 2020, you guys. We only got a couple of more months, and then we're gonna really be in the thick of it. And what's super important is I don't know. I'm assuming folks on this call are aware of what the census is and why it's important. but just in case we got some new folks joining us, at the end of the day, it is in essence a population count, right? Every 10 years on April 1st, our government begins counting every living person in our country, regardless of our age, sex, ethnicity, citizenship, or immigration status. And BT Dubs, we've been doing this since 1790 because it's been mandated by the Constitution since then. This is also, and by the way, this presentation will be available for anyone after the fact. So if you see something and I don't talk about it, you can definitely take a look at it and delve deeper later. But I just want you to also walk away from this slide knowing that for the first time, folks will be able to complete this by complete the questionnaire by mail, phone, and da 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 online. So look at us getting into the 21st century. Um, uh, but what's most important, I think, to take away from all of this, right, is that what's driving all of this? What is the value of this, right? The 2020 population numbers, all this data that's going to be collected will literally shape how political power and federal tax dollars are shared in our country over the next 10 years. The number of congressional seats, electoral college votes each state gets are determined by census numbers. These numbers will also guide approximately $880 billion a year in federal funding, which will, of course, be distributed for schools, roads, and other public services in local communities. The demographic data is used by businesses to determine, for example, where to build new supermarkets, by emergency responders to locate injured people after natural disasters. This data drives a lot. And I think for a lot of folks that are into census stuff, right, we forget how we can forget how important it is, or sorry, rephrase, we need to be able to express that to the folks that we're talking to, one conversation at a time. Yeah. Um, Speaking of, what's on this thing they call the questionnaire? It's fascinating to me because all these conversations that we've had over the last, year and a half, it comes down to 7 questions. How many people are living or staying at the home on April 1st, 2020? Whether that home is owned or rented, right? Side note, home ownership actually serves as an indicator of our nation's economy, the health or lack thereof. They also help in administering housing programs and informing planning decisions. The questionnaire also will ask about the sex of each person. We're going to go into that a little bit here in a moment. It'll ask about the age of each person in the home. It'll ask about the race of each person in the home, right? This data actually helps federal agencies monitor compliance with anti-discrimination provisions, such as those in the Voter Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And you can't see me, but as a Black woman, those 2 things are very important because folks that came before me fought really hard to get these on the table. And so this data actually helps inform if we're living up to the spirit of those 2 particular acts. It'll ask whether someone in the home is Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. And it'll also ask about the relationship of each person in the home. And of course, this information allows the Bureau to create estimates about families, households, and other groups. And the relationship data will be used in planning and funding government programs that support families, including people raising children alone, which, by the way, for those that aren't in the know, children 0 to 5 are one of the hardest to count populations. So we most definitely want to make sure that everyone is counted. So 7 questions. And we estimate that it would take approximately 7 to 10 minutes to finish, to complete it, depending on, some variables. Of course, again, we want to include everyone, but I just kind of wanted to take a moment and take a beat and just acknowledge that navigating the questionnaire as an LGBTQ person can absolutely be difficult. For some, it's downright traumatic, and we recognize that. And so what we have done with our coalition partner, the LGBTQ task force, is really try to hone in on the best messaging for folks that are having issues around that, right? And so what we have hit on that has worked really well when we've been out doing community outreach is that at the end of the day, the responses are only going to be restricted to a few options. But because the Bureau doesn't cross-check that information with any source, We want you to answer as best as you can with how you self-identify. It is absolutely okay to respond differently on the census than how you would perhaps on your driver's license or your birth certificate. Because again, this is about collecting data that we're going to use over the next 10 years, and hopefully in 2030, make sure that SOGI data is in fact, SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity information is added. The other bit that I want you to walk away from with this is that about data security, it is absolutely secure. Not only does the Bureau prohibit sharing data identifying individuals with anyone for 72 years, this also includes sharing it within other organizations, within other agencies, right? And this is a really important piece for folks in our community that have legitimate issues with some of those agencies, right? So the reason I point this out is because essentially the point of this law, again, is to make sure that only one household is submitting the survey. But again, as importantly, it's not intended to punish people who answer the question in a way that better reflects who they are with regard to their name and sex. And then just a quick a note, this is why we're absolutely encouraging folks to participate in the self-response time, right? To make sure that they are filling this form out either online, in person, or online, by mail, or by phone. Because this way, this will ensure that an enumerator won't come knocking on your door. If, again, that is an issue, and again, a legitimate issue for some folks in our community and the communities that intersect with ours. So that's the big broad overview that, again, I'm sure folks on this phone are like, yeah, we already knew that. Can you move on? So what's at stake? What's at stake not only for us, but what's also at stake for folks that just, again, happen to have more than one identity, right? Golly Moses, there is a lot. There are over 300 federal programs and, again, over $880 billion in federal funds allocated annually based on census data, and it's absolutely vital to meeting the needs of Californians. So that's our roads, that's our schools. I heard library, that's my jam. That's actually one of my first jobs, y'all. I was a page in a library many, many moons ago, as well as emergency response, hospitals, and healthcare. What's at stake specifically for us is that every decade the census has a tendency, either accidentally, intentionally, or on purpose, missing or undercounting hundreds of thousands of folks, including LGBTQ folks, low-income folks, folks of color, and young children. Undercounts deny our communities the power and representation that we need to fight for the most vulnerable, of amongst us in our community, and the things that we need to survive. And simultaneously, an overcount, or in some cases, depending on how you do the math, and I'm not a mathematician, so take that with a grain of salt, double counts, hundreds of thousands of people with the most privilege have more access to those resources, if that makes sense. So we've got some stats down here. I know, again, some of you might already be aware of this, but please take this away. At the end of the day, California is expected to lose federal funding of approximately $1,900. We're going to round up to 2,000. I've already said I'm not a mathematician, so we're going to round up to 2,000. But that's $2,000 per person per year for 10 years for every person who is missed in the 2020 census. So that's the problem. Let's get into some solutions, shall we? Collateral and tools. So as I said initially, we have been doing presentations and doing community outreach, and a lot of the things that we have been building, we have built from our partners. Partners like Naleo, who are just doing fantastic work in doing creating census resources in both English and Spanish. They've created Latinx specific frequently asked questions. They have a census hotline in English and Spanish. They really are doing some fantastic work. Also, our friends over here, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, have a Get Off the Count toolkit. They have API specific frequently asked questions, and they're doing some real heavy lifting with upcoming translations in 23 API languages. And the recent addition is our Bay Area Counts 2020, which is a regional census outreach initiative led by the United Way Bay Area, who have funding opportunities, but they are the ACBO. For that region. And so their site is up and running, and I would encourage you to check that out as well. If I didn't mention, links are going to be available, so you can just click on them. But if you're a quick typer, you might be looking this stuff up already. But yeah, check into Bay Area Counts. And Census Counts, which is a collaborative campaign of 15 national organizations and community partners. I mentioned earlier the National LGBTQ Task Force. We have been queering the census since 2010. They have a lot of really great tools. They have, let me see if I can share this. They have this, hold on one second. They have this LGBTQ Census Coalition packet. They have a toolkit that they will send out to folks, which will include things like, let's see here. What was I? Let's see what we got here. So they've got stuff like this, for example, video series on digital basics. So for those organizations that don't have the kind of bandwidth that other organizations do, they've provided resources to help you cover things like social media and doing outreach digitally. Let me see. There was one in particular that I really liked. Let's see if I can find it. We've got some census data. Oh, was this it? I should have looked at this before. Oh, so we've got like specific pieces about why it's important for queer folks or LGBTQ folks to participate. So again, I strongly encourage you to take a look at the work that they're doing. That's a National LGBTQ Task Force. Oh, and they have a monthly coalition call, which you can hop on and get some get the most updated information they have about the census. We also have our United States Census Bureau. They have a community outreach toolkit, which these are the first 2 pages. You can see they've really done a deep dive into exactly how best to do outreach for our community. So you can sort of hobble together all of these resources and create what you need for your organization and the folks that you're reaching out to. First Five, they're doing work with young children, and they have a great set of tools available as well. For those that aren't in the know, First Five is a nonprofit organization that advocates and works for the state's 58 First Five county commissions to build strong, effective, and sustainable systems serving California's youngest children. Yes, I pulled that right from their website. Let's see, who else we got? We have Count the Nation. Count the Nation is the USC Annenberg Innovation Lab coalition where folks from media, comms, data technology and journalism, I believe, have all sort of come together and created these tools and these pieces of collateral that you can use, again, to push out your message. I didn't mention this earlier. A lot of organizations are now getting into their canvassing season and their texting or their phone banking season. So a lot of these organizations will begin to have train the trainers. They'll begin to have toolkits on canvassing and doing outreach during the self-response period as well. Which brings me to CPAN, which is the Census Policy Advocacy Network, which of course we belong to. They have these fantastic one-sheeters. So again, most of us make up a lot of different pieces, right? And so when we're doing outreach, not only to LGBTQ folks, but perhaps homeless youth, which I believe we're at 40% of the homeless youth are LGBTQ. They have a fantastic facts that sort of help lead how we talk to folks about how valuable the census is. And then what else do we have? I don't know what time is. Oh, and then we have us. And so all of the things that I've just talked about are in and available through our EQCA will be counted LGBTQ Census Resource Bank. Man, that's a mouthful. We have our census FAQs, which, by the way, hey Sam, are absolutely informed by the partners that we have in different parts of the state, who are like, hey, you know, this issue's come up, and then we like wind up making adjustments, and we find that that resonates with folks that we didn't even realize we needed to resonate with. So this is a living, breathing resource which is continually updated with content and general LGBTQ census stuff. And if you have a suggestion, as you may have heard the conversation Martha and I having earlier, we absolutely include that. And so as moving forward, we all have best practices that we can use when we're engaging folks. So we've got FAQs, we have talking points, we have a digital version of our postcard, which many of you might have seen. That postcard, let me see something here. Hold on, let me see if I can do this, see if I can do this, see if I can do this. So that postcard, if you haven't seen it, let me see if I can pull this up. Looks like this. And now it's digital. So if you are at like an event and you want folks to fill this out, we will get the information on the back end. And then next year, when we just begin to do outreach, we will make sure those folks are get a touch. Minimally one, but probably more likely than not more than one, to make sure that they follow through with their pledge to complete the 2020 census. By the way, since we're here, this is this Partners Resource Bank I was speaking of. We have talking points, we have our graphics. You'll notice none of our stuff is EQCA branded. It is #WillBeCounted branded, because we just want folks to be able to use this in any space that they're in. We just want everybody to participate, right? We have those FAQs. Since I got Sam on the call, let me see if I can pull this up. Now I should have done that. Now I put myself on the line. But we had so let me see if I can make this. I don't know if I can, but there was a question that was brought up about gender options, and this we actually changed our FAQ to address this. And again, we were pleasantly surprised at how it resonated with folks in other parts as well. So, in other parts of the state as well. So, living, breathing document resource that is available to anybody and everyone, and we absolutely encourage folks to share freely and broadly as they see fit. All of this stuff is, again, available and free for the taking, as it were. And for those that are doing, like, you got train the trainers, you have folks that are creating this kind of swag and these kinds of talking points and FAQs. We also have folks who are just creating content that they are providing that you can use in social media and other places. And on that note,
Adrienne,
yes.
the video's not playing on our side.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Well, it's a video of some young folks who are all in with the census. Again, it'll be included in the present. Oops, sorry. Hold on. Oh, sorry. It'll be included in the presentation. So sorry about that. That was my denouement. Super grateful again. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been useful. Please reach out with any questions, concerns, or issues. And until we meet again, thank you so very, very much. That's it. That's the tweet.
Thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Are you sticking around to answer any questions right now, or do you have to scoot?
I can hang out. I am down for the cause.
Okay, great. So are there any questions that anyone has for Equality California on the materials, any Census 101 stuff? So Kim asked if I could send materials digitally. I'm going to follow up with this group, and I'll have links to everything that you see here today.
Cool.
Anything else? Okay. All right, well, thank you so much. We're gonna switch gears now to how folks can get involved at Alameda County. Switch my chair over.
Another one of these?
Yeah,
Can I take yours?
yeah, you can have that one unless I wrote on it. All right. Make sure. All right. Share. All right. Okay. Can everyone hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So, all right, so Adrienne gave a really great presentation on all things census pretty much. So I'm gonna skip ahead and just talk about how you can get involved here at Alameda County. So, you know, census drives decision making. You can take it by phone, online, and on paper. Your data is protected. For Alameda County, 60% of our resources come from federal and state government based on the census. And in Alameda County, if we undercount by only 6%, we would lose $1 billion over 10 years. So that's just a little bit sort of tailored to Alameda County. 26% of our community is considered hard to count, so they come from you know, folks who are young children. The 2010 census was actually a very well-funded census conducted under a much more politically friendly environment, and we still miss 1 million children in that census. So, and then of course we are in a housing crisis, so there's folks you know, doubled up in homes, living in you know, illegal units, etc., accessory dwelling units. So really getting the word out that folks have to count every single person in their household, regardless of your relationship with them, et cetera, is going to be really important. What I should also mention while I have this slide up is that what you're looking at here is the hard to count map from the state of California. It's going to allow us, so this map is actually interactive. So it's going to allow us to see all of the hard to count census tracts throughout Alameda County, and also be able to see where all of our partners are mapped out geographically on this map, and we'll get real-time updates on what the participation rate is for each of these census tracts. So we'll really be able to do an analysis around early to mid-April. The census goes live on March 12th of 2020, census day is April 1st, so around mid-April, before they start sending enumerators out to people's homes, we can really evaluate where we need to be beefing up our outreach. So that's going to be a tool that we'll have. Yeah, so at Alameda County, through the work of subcommittees like this one, we actually have 13 subcommittees, and they are made up of advocates and service providers of folks who are hard to count. So here we are at the LGBTQ Subcommittee. There's also a subcommittee for people experiencing homelessness, folks who serve that community. We also have 0 to 5 because young children are missed a lot, et cetera. So there's 13, and we've convened all 13 3 times in this 2019 period. So all of those great ideas and questions and concerns, we're able to put them into a strategic plan. So what we learned in all of those convenings is that we need to be providing content. And in terms of LGBTQ related content, we were really lucky and happy to partner with Equality California, the National LGBTQ Task Force, et cetera, who are able to provide all this really great, rich content. We are providing trainings as well, so that folks who want to volunteer their time and really engage their communities in the census will be able to get trained by us, so you can be really comfortable talking about the census, answering difficult questions like, can I skip a question? How do I respond to the census if I'm a non-binary person, et cetera. And how to host a questionnaire assistance center, which really is a hub of census taking. So folks can go to these questionnaire assistance centers throughout Alameda County, get their questions answered, and then also take their census. So we know that all of our libraries are going to be questionnaire assistance centers. And then our senior centers and other sort of partners that we were able to fund through our grant are also going to have sites throughout Alameda County. But it's not too late to still sign up if your organization is able to host a questionnaire assistance center. We could potentially sponsor things, food, et cetera, if you want to have a census event. So that's what sort of is covered in this bucket, is that we are providing technical assistance and then training so that folks can be well equipped to really engage their communities in the census. And we're also going to be printing materials. In addition to partnering with organizations who come up with really great materials, like Equality California, we're also created materials in-house, and it's really going to be on our website. We have a bank of resources that includes, I believe it includes, if it doesn't include right now, it will very shortly, all of those LGBTQ resources. But it's going to be like a big bank, so that we have NALEO and our and United Way stuff all in one central location, so that you have access to this really rich bank of materials to use. And then we can also print stuff as well. We're going to be creating videos, so particularly for our immigrant community, where fear and distrust is going to be really is one of the biggest barriers for this community. We are putting together a public service announcement video where members of our immigrant community are going to do little snippets of why they're taking the census, despite these sort of attacks from the administration to get them to not respond. So that's just one of the ways in which we are using videos to support outreach in the community. Additionally, to address some of the language barriers, there's a big mom community that's sort of that have folks from Guatemala who have relocated here, and so there's a whole community of folks who speak Hmong, which is a language that is not covered by the Census Bureau, and the language is actually primarily spoken and not written. So we know from all of our engagement community that we need to be providing a video in Hmong from a native speaker who can walk people through the form and show that video. So that's just those are just some of the ways in which we are sort of having the community inform our process, and then using all of that information to come up with all of these ways to support folks. And that is also that you all can do the direct outreach as the trusted messengers among your own communities. So that's that. So this is a timeline of this work in terms of Alameda County and also the Census Bureau. So as I mentioned, in 2019, we had 3 convenings of all of these subcommittees, all the 13. We've also had meetings with other stakeholder groups, faith-based organizations, business groups, labor, commissions, rotaries, etc. And that has been our big education and planning phase, to really raise our own awareness of what the community's needs are, and really develop content that is relevant for the community, and then also getting those resources out to our partners to say, for example, we had a big outreach grant go out, and then we also had mini grant application go out so that folks can apply for resources. And then in addition to those, we're also going to be offering sponsorships moving forward, and then also volunteer opportunities where you pretty much have like everything that you need from us, where you would volunteer your time to go out and engage your community. So we're having people sign up for our Census Ambassador program, which I'll talk about in a minute. We also are promoting census jobs right now, which I'll also go in depth into that, because we want folks who look and sound like the community to be the ones actually doing the counting, right? And following up with folks, which will really help with that fear and distrust. Yeah.
Quick question on the census jobs. Is that through the county, or is that?
It's through the Census Bureau.
Okay.
So that's all to say that we are gearing up for our awareness phase. It's going to be early next year. So January and February of 2020 is going to be when we are going to be conducting those trainings, setting up those questionnaire assistance centers, planning those events, getting all of our partner events scheduled on a master calendar, so folks know where they can go to get census support in their own community. And so that, and then also our partners are going to start actually communicating with the general public. So Adrienne did mention in her presentation that next year is when outreach is going to start. So it's same on our end. It's also going to be during sort of prime political season where we have the California primaries happening on March 4th. We take our census on March 12th. So folks would have been habitually throwing away their mail, right? But then we also have to keep folks' attention to say this piece of mail is really important, don't throw it out. It's really important for our democracy. So all of those messages are going to be going out in early next year, so that when it's the motivation phase, so starting March 12th when the census is live, folks know where to go to take their census, where they can go to get their questions answered, etc. Going a little bit more in depth in the actual census timeline. So the census is live March 12th. They give you until about April 30th of 2020 to self-respond to the census. And it was mentioned really importantly earlier that we're really focusing on self-response because that just eliminates all of that sort of issue with having a federal government person knock on your door, especially for our immigrant communities where we've been telling them, don't answer the door to the federal government, right? And giving out those cards, etc. So we really want folks to be empowered to respond on their own. Additionally, because there's fewer resources at the federal level, we expect that the Census Bureau is likely to only make 3 attempts to follow up with someone before they do enumeration by proxy, which is when they go to your neighbor and ask your neighbor questions about you to try to get your census answers, which could lead to inaccuracies, and it's just overall a little bit unsettling, right? So that's self-response. In early May is when they're gonna.
The end date was April 30th.
April 30th, yes, yes.
Line, so.
Sorry, and this is not very large font. So March 30th to April 1st is going to be when the Census Bureau conducts their service-based enumeration. So that is their plan to count people who don't have an address. So as you noted earlier, for everyone with an address, they're going to get all of these prompts in the mail to go online, take their census, or call, or they'll get their form mailed to them eventually if they don't respond by a certain time. But if you don't have an address, then they're going to count you in 2 different ways. One is going to be if you are a person experiencing homelessness and you access services at a soup kitchen or a shelter, etc., then then the Census Bureau is going to make contact with the shelter or service site and then schedule a time within this 3-day window to interview people who are coming in for services. And they have a special form that folks fill out that doesn't ask about your address, etc. On March 31st to April 1st, the Census Bureau is going to do their version of a point-in-time count. So not everyone who is experiencing homelessness is accessing services because they want to stay under the radar, etc. Right? And so the Census Bureau is going to send out folks on the street to literally go and interview people who are sleeping in their cars or staying in encampments, etc. Don't have a usual house elsewhere. So that's service-based enumeration and enumeration of transitory locations. So through the advocacy of our Unhoused Subcommittee, we actually were able to advocate to the Census Bureau. And so now they're going to start allowing people who don't have an address to self-respond. And that will be after this April 1st sort of operation. And I think it'll ask them, like, were you counted during these other operations? And if you weren't, then you'd be able to take your census online or by phone. This is a brand new development. We just learned about this about 3 weeks ago. So there's still more to come on exactly how that's going to kind of work out and how folks can promote the census, particularly if you work with people who are experiencing homelessness. But that is big news because previously folks who don't have an address were not able to self-respond. So then our libraries can start engaging folks, right? So they can come and go to a questionnaire assistance center and take their census. And then it's non-response follow-up from early May going through August. And then the Census Bureau is also going to be counting people who are in prisons and nursing homes, transitional housing, etc. And that's group quarters. All right, so that's the timeline. Thank you for bearing with me through that. So I'm going to switch gears now and just talk about how you can volunteer with with Alameda County and really get access to all of our great resources that we have. This is our Census Ambassador Program. So this sort of puts pen to paper that you are, engaging your community in the census. With all of the folks who sign up with us to be ambassadors, we'll be able to populate that mapping tool and see exactly where all of our partners are. So it really helps us to see where outreach is happening. Also, it helps us to see how many materials we need to print. What do we need to be producing? What are the needs, like practical needs, like actual documents, et cetera, that we need to be producing for our communities. So please do sign up. And you'll have access through this program. You'll have access to our trainings and our materials and our printed materials. And you can either be placed with an organization, or you can do your own project. Like say you're involved in your own community center, or at your within your own clubs that you're a part of, and you want to be that census lead. You want to have access to our presentation and be able to talk to your folks about the census. That's totally fine. It's a really flexible program where you can be involved whichever way is most effective for you and your community. Did I mention that you can get placed with an organization? Yes. Yes. Great. All right. So that's the ambassador program. One of two more updates is that our messenger program has launched. So all of that great content that I was telling you about is now available on our website. We have two shout outs. The first shout out is just why the census is important. Why should my community care about the census? It has a newsletter insert. It has some social media templates and some other resources. I'm going to walk through that after the presentation. So that's number one, why the census is important. Shout out number two is all about census jobs. So I will jump right into census jobs. So as I mentioned, we want our folks to be applying to these jobs and getting these jobs. So what we've been doing, and our priority in the months of November and December, is to really promote these jobs in our communities by hosting jobs workshops. So there is one workshop that's scheduled for November 22nd, and I'll send out the dates if anyone is interested in attending or sharing them with your community, because all of the workshops are open to the public. But basically, you need to be 18 years or older by December 31st. Have a social security number. Previously, you had to be a U.S. citizen, but the Census Bureau made an announcement that anyone who's legally eligible to work in the United States can apply to these jobs. I'm not sure if they've updated their website yet, but that's all to say that we're encouraging anyone and everyone to apply to these jobs, because not being a U.S. citizen, having a criminal record, etc., does not automatically disqualify you. So, yeah. So that's the census jobs. Folks should apply now, even though you won't start till March of 2020, because that's when the Census Bureau is sort of filling its applicant pool to start drawing from in early next year. And
how much does the census worker job?
I'm sorry, that's a great question. In Alameda County, it's $25 an hour. Yes, I should start with that. I always forget to say that. Yes, $25 an hour, flexible schedule. Folks can work evenings and weekends or during the day. And I think they can work, Benson, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they can work anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. So it could be part-time, full-time. And then they place you where you live, in a certain radius of where you live. And also, if you live in a hard-to-count census tract or speak another language, then you have you're a higher priority. So yeah, before I take questions, I am going to just walk through a couple things on our website. So this is our messenger program right here. It's at acgov.org/census 2020. Under flyers and handouts, and under external fact sheets, we have LGBTQ community. So we have a lot of these resources in here. And then we're continuing to add, because I know that Equality California does have additional resources to these. The Census Bureau themselves also have one-pagers. And I will go ahead and play the video, and hopefully it works. And this is from Equality California.
Stand up, be counted.
I'm a dreamer. I look to the sky and see the stars and watch what they have to say. They show me a vision of what the world can be.
I'm an artist, but I'm only one person, and there are so many of us here that we must work together to stand for our worth.
There are so many other communities that have been silenced, but together we can move a nation. No matter who you are or who you love, you matter. Your voice matters.
We have a chance to affect not only our nation, but the world by being strong in our identities and strong in our community. The U.S. Census is our massive national head count, and it measures our complex identity. It answers the questions, how many people live in the United States, and where are we?
This data informs virtually everything within our communities, from where we build new hospitals, schools, daycare, and elderly care centers.
The census is about our identity, both personally and nationally, no matter how we define that. It's a gorgeous, giant, beautiful quilt of 330 million people, and each of us are a crucial patch.
The census data determines the 435 congressional seats for 10 years. So if a state is undercounted or participation is low, that could reduce a state's seats, which means less power in Washington to ensure that our voices are heard. 2020 marks an important chapter not only for America, but for the entire LGBT community.
Stand up, be counted.
Stand up, be counted.
Stand up, be counted.
The census takes place on April 1st, 2020.
Right.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Okay. All right, so yeah, so you have access to this video. You could potentially link it to your website, or all of this is at your disposal. So that's that part, and then we also have the messenger program, which is a little bit more prescriptive. So shout out number one, as I mentioned, is about why the census is important. It has a one-pager about confidentiality from our partners at the Asian Law Caucus, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, and it's available in 3 languages. And you also have a printout of that on one of the things that I have handed out. So it just really goes through in really simple language that your census information is protected and completely confidential. We also have some social media templates. It's easy cut and paste. And all of this stuff is available in Word format. So if you want to add your organization's logo to it, if you want to tweak the language to make it more resonant with your community, then we are totally open to having you all tweak it to make it as resonant as possible. So yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. And are there any questions at all? Any questions? Yes.
Well, it's sort of, I was just going to share what we're working on and see what that you are interested in having access to.
Yeah.
So the library's in a little bit of a unique position from advocacy organizations and others. So we want to make sure we're sort of just providing access to all possible information. And we're primarily using your Alameda County materials for sort of all of our general census things, but we're putting together a very small sort of half-page flyer that's from the library, just primarily on the question, the what sex are you question. That's basically going to say, we understand that this question is complicated, problematic. It's however it is worded, and we want to provide you with the resources to make the decision how to answer this, which is a little different than what advocacy organizations are doing, and sort of give some of the similar FAQs to what's on here, but also with sort of links to resources. And then we're going to have a page on our website that has kind of all of the resources we've seen related to this question. So definitely the stuff you have, some other stuff we've looked at just to make sure that people have kind of access to all the information to make an informed decision, but also so when they're walking into the library, which is a sort of kind of more trusted government institution than some of the others, that they see that we're thinking about this and noticed and care and acknowledge that that's a problem, even though we don't use it counted. So if any of that is useful, let me know.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And similarly, I'm happy for any other people to take whatever this half of pages that we make and use it where they're collecting. I think people are also going to be more inclined to actually finish the survey if they see sitting out an acknowledgement that this is problematic, but that we're going to help you work through it as opposed to just seeing it and being like, this is away. So it's kind of.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we can also add the soft copy to our resource bank. So that
my hope was my committee kind of has been working on it for a few weeks, but I wanted to sit at this meeting before we sort of finalized and decided. So my hope is to have at least a draft ready in the next few days, actually. So.
I noticed that you mentioned gender, and based on my understanding, when you only have one chance to fill it out online, and you kind of, and my concern is that if you don't put down a gender, you can't move on to the next question. So I don't know if that was brought up earlier, but I think that's something that I should always, not only, but that's actually one of the reasons.
Yeah, well, and that's part of what we're putting together is literally those kind of facts. Like, this is what's going to happen if you do this. This is what's going to happen if you do this. Like, if you skip the question, then blank happens. If you just choose a random answer, blank happens. So sort of giving just the information. And I didn't realize that it won't let you move on.
Well, we don't know.
So the Asian Law Caucus has advised that you should be able to skip a question online, by phone, and in person.
Okay, great.
What exactly that looks like right now, it's a little bit unclear because we don't know what the online system is going to look like because they haven't made that available just yet. So we're still, early in the process. But you should be able to skip questions online.
And if it comes out later that you can't, we can modify whatever we come up with to say, if you want to skip this question, we recommend you call instead of doing it online or whatever the other options might be. So.
Yeah, and there was also another note, and I think this handout talks a little bit about, this handout, the bottom paragraph does talk about skipping.
Yeah.
There was a lot of research that was done about that when the citizenship question was potentially going to be on the form. So the Asian Law Caucus did a ton of research about that, and while it's like technically illegal to skip, not complete your census in full or in part, no one's at that. It's never been enforced.
Well, and so that's part of the stuff.
Exactly, and so
we have to say
exactly the only
technically it is not legal. We have to tell them that.
Right, and the only thing that I know, like organizations who have a 501c3 status, they can't on a large scale promote people to
skip it.
Technically break the law, so they could potentially lose their status. So it's more about providing the information from partners like our legal partners that say, questions that are skipped. If you skip only one question, your census is going to be counted. No one's going to come after you, etc. And that's why relationships with these legal partners are really important because then, as a government entity, we might not be able to say that, but then our partners, our legal partners can say basically in a nutshell that it's okay to skip.
And so what we can say is,
and also if there's more questions being skipped, and you trigger away, the chance, the Census Bureau going to follow up, check with you because you have the phone number and the address there. So, sometimes it creates more fear to some people, but just let our community knows, as finished, as complete as possible. If you have to skip it. So you still being counted. But if there is more questions, 2, 3, 4, skipping questions, then more likely somebody going to contact you.
Can I quote you on that?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So is there a way for the county to keep track of the numbers of people who have responded? So if the federal government decides to throw out certain ones because they skipped the gender question, we will know how many that is and have a way to fight that?
So through that online tool that's provided by the state, we will be able to know what the response rate is. Because of protections, we're not going to be able to know.
You won't be able to know who, but
Right.
just sheer numbers. Like if it says, I don't know how many people live in this county, but let's say there are, 3.5 million people who responded and only 2.5 million counted by the feds, then we will know that they've thrown out a bunch and have some way to fight that or some way to challenge it.
Like if we skip it and if people skip the question and then their answers don't.
Like, are they actually going to not count those people, basically? Yeah, what we've heard from our legal partners is that even if you leave certain things blank, then your census will be counted. But I feel like what you're asking me is, how do we ensure that those censuses were counted?
Right.
I do not have an answer today, but
we know we don't.
But that is something.
Although it sounds like the census people do want everyone to get counted, but
We're all very skeptical right now.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Actually, I had two things. First of all, what we are doing in regard to not encouraging people to break the law, not strictly soliciting people to break the law, is that it's never illegal to share information. Solicitation is in encouraging people to break the law. So what we've been doing is giving people all the information.
Right. I mean, this is beautiful. You just basically described libraries.
And I'm an attorney, and there's a fine line here, but saying the truth, which is that it's illegal to not complete this. And
no one
not even a yet, but I would say and no one has been prosecuted under this law since 1970. Just gives people all the information. And my actual question in giving people the information, I know that we had connected last time, you didn't quite have the information about this, and I'm just wondering if there's any update on, there is a difference between it being illegal to use this information and it being impossible to use this information. And I know that that you were still not entirely clear on the computer system and how that data is disaggregated. We've been telling people we just don't know right now.
And I can give you some updates. So I'm not an IT expert, but the information is stored in an encrypted way. So this is a guarantee. And also for all the other procedures, we have very strong IT program to ensure the information stored in safe. This is a priority. There's nothing else.
So if in theory, the executive directed the Census Bureau, which is part of the executive, to provide this data, it would be impossible and not just illegal?
It's very, for the data analysis, it's very limited access. It's only for, that certain people start to analyze the data, and also again, when we analyze data, it's only produce the statistic data.
Right. So I'm still not entirely clear on whether it's.
You can say impossible.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it's confidential. It's 100% secure. For our identity, personal identifiable information. That's 100% secure. That's from our predictions. We can give this prediction, the information to the public, to our community. We have to create a fair, otherwise we're gonna missing count our people. And turns out we're gonna lose money and the representatives, even getting worse. So really, we are okay to our community members skip 1 or 2 questions because we are still be counted. That's our goal.
Yeah.
So if you feel not comfortable, put in including the relationship between the members in the household, that's probably okay too. So, but we don't want to miscounted. That's the thing. So we are really concerned for our community.
So what we've been telling people is that it is illegal under all these things, and we're not entirely sure whether it is strictly impossible. We haven't been encouraging people one way or another. We've been encouraging them to fill out the census, but providing the information so that they're fully informed. If there is any update on that, I would love to hear it at some point.
So, for example, in the libraries, 72 hours after, well, as soon as you log off a computer, the data of what you've done on that computer does not exist. It is not findable. Or as soon as a book is returned, there is no way in our systems to connect who has ever had that book before. So if the FBI comes and wants to know what books you've checked out, there is no way to tell them because that information doesn't exist. So I think that's what he's asking is, will the information exist?
I understand these concerns. You know, every single person is if it responds online always have the fear of the cyber security. So we have all this kind of programs super strong. So we are so confident there's no problem, no issues. You know, the information can be encrypted immediately after we submit the button. So and the online system also cannot contain the information. So, you know, if you couldn't finish it, it's going to disappear. You have to restart it from all over. So all these ways create a little bit inconvenience, but we want to safety start number one priority. So.
But if President Trump asks for it,
yes.
It exists and he can get it.
Yeah, and for Census Bureau, Alyssa knows the information is only one way. So we collect information and we don't share with any third party, including the law enforcement and the immigration enforcement agencies. And including Donald Trump individual cannot get the information from us either.
Even if they
so yes, and all the single employees in the Census Bureau, we really, we have a lifetime to protect identifiable personal information, including our colleagues. So we don't even, I cannot even share, if Alicia is my colleague, I cannot even share your personal information, your address with any third party, including Donald Trump. So if the wrongful disclosure about any personal information, I could end up in the prison for 5 years plus $250,000 fines. So this is a lifetime premise. So nobody gonna challenge that. So the law is really restricted. You know, the Title 13 protected us, every single person. We really, the messenger, ambassador, you know, all the messengers, I believe, Alameda County created. We want our, play as the messenger. We are the trusted messenger, the leaders in our community. We want to clear the fear of every single person. So otherwise, if we miscount it, we get a smaller number. For 10 years, we get less money and less representatives. So we have less community services, no resources for us. So,
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great, awesome. So I'm going to switch over to some of the online questions from Martha. And the question was, but we are allowed to say person 1 instead of the name, correct? Or those renting in the same home or address, we can say is person 4 or person 5. So the advice has been that, as Adrienne mentioned in her presentation, is that everything that you report on your census is self-identified, including your name, including your ethnicity. This person 1, person 2 thing came up in our Unhoused Subcommittee, where the Census Bureau literally said, like, if someone is like scared and does not want to give their information to someone, you can literally write person 1. So yes, if you identify as person 1, person 2, don't want to give your name. I will say though that the census data, they are kept for, I don't know how long it takes before they get rid of your data. I don't know that, but
72 years.
But 72 years, after 72 years, then you can access like your ancestors' data. So you can literally see, and this is huge, especially if you come from a slave background and you don't have any of your ancestry. People have been able to find their relatives and, where they were traded, etc., based on census data. So it could be a big legacy thing to actually put your name down. But again, in this political climate, it's really up to individuals to decide what they want to do.
That tells us that data does exist then.
It does? Oh yeah, 100%. Yes.
So it is not impossible.
Yes.
Destroyed.
They keep it. Yes. Yeah. And that's how a lot of those ancestry things happen, is based the research, or you're able to research your family through census data. So are there any other questions? Oh, there are questions here. Thank you. Can you go back to the webcam?
I have a
but then I can't see the question. Oh, no, I can't. No, I can't see the question.
I have a question too.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, but you want to go first?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm wondering about communication of the positive benefits, if any, for specific questions, because I understand the message of do it, and we're arguing about the fear, which is legitimate for each one. But is there for each question? And so the reference to race, I'm not informed on the history of how the questions ended up and when, but my guess is that was fought for.
Yes, 100%.
And we're on the
Act.
subject. And so that means there is a cost.
Yeah.
And if I, as a census taker, am informed on, okay, I find this question offensive. However, the price to my community for leaving it blank may be, I don't see any of that for the 7 questions.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And that information is definitely going to be available in our guides that we create, and getting input like that will help to inform those, particularly for race and ethnicity is to, and I want to say gender as well, is to enforce equity laws, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, equal opportunities. That's the reason why, they're able to see these are the populations. There's, like 0 employment here, this is the makeup. Or, if we're going to have certain programs for certain, targeted programs for certain demographics. But in terms of, so the Census Bureau has a sort of packet that walks through all of the questions and says specifically why each question is on there. And by and large, the biggest reason is to enforce the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. So, but that's great. We need to have like a comprehensive one.
Right, so that we don't have to go read through all
Exactly.
the stuff.
No,
and
absolutely.
if there's such a sharp message, hey, leaving this one blank could do blank, like
Right.
as catchy as everything else. Yeah. I'm not your catchphrase person, but I know when I see one.
That's a great question. Check out the fact sheet about why we ask those questions. Every question they have explanations.
Yeah.
Of course, they have to meet the criteria to be on the census form.
Right.
So that, if there's a promotional materials on the Census Bureau, so you can check out the fact sheet. Why we ask. There is a one specific flyer answer every single question. Why we ask this? Why we ask this?
Can I say something?
Yes. Can you see can you see the webcam?
I kind of can, but now you've turned it off.
Uh-oh. Does that
Sorry.
Does that work?
I don't really see it now.
Okay.
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay.
Can you see Alessia's screen? Why can't I see it?
I can. Hi, y'all.
Okay, fine.
All right, Martha, go ahead. What's your question?
It's not so much a question as one of the most meaningful things that I heard that changed my. I was really disappointed in some of the things about the census that I felt like were not very inclusive of the community, but it really made a difference when I realized that everything we fight for in terms of funding and voice, as in particular in my case, as an older white woman, I'm fine right now, but the communities that I fight for really need this money. We pay for HIV drugs with this money. We're paying for housing, and LGBTQ people are some of the most under-resourced parts of every intersectional community they're part of. And so I would say that one of the things that's really made a difference, and all of our young people within the LGBTQ community in this part of the county, except for 2, are non-white people. And they really feel empowered to be messengers throughout their intersectional communities around the census, because they feel like they're able to, even though they're not fully counted in the census in a way that they wanted to be, they feel like they're able to give back to the different intersectional communities they also belong to in a powerful way with this census work. And I just want to say that until I heard that, I didn't have that perspective. And I appreciated you saying that, Alessia.
Thank you. All right. Well, are there any other questions in the room? Sounds like we got all our online questions.
Just to make sure anybody who's living in the United States, including, let's say, students who are like studying abroad here, is supposed to be counted, correct?
So people who are studying abroad from other countries in the United States.
Yes.
Benson says yes.
Yes, but international students studying in the US, they counted. And while our own students, if they're studying in Europe or in China, they are not counted.
They're
right?
not counted?
Yes, we're counting people living in the US, and there's a residential criteria. It's also very specific. If you're wondering which group should be counted, which shouldn't, you check out this entire sheet there. It's very specific. So all the international students, as long as they're living in the US, they are counted. So no matter what immigration status they have.
If someone is just studying abroad from March to August, they're not going to get counted?
Yeah, if short term they're counted, there is a standard with the criteria is where are you living the most of the time. So if you just short term visit, of course you come in here, right? You're just visiting. Right. Yeah, there are some trigger ways, but if you're really not sure if I should be counted or not, where, because we count people where are they living, right? The place is really important too. So that's why we pick April 1st random days. If you're not sure, okay, April 1st, where are you living? You should be counted there. So is that clear?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm from the city of Berkeley, and it's a bit of a problem for us with all the students.
Right, I can imagine.
Outreach to let them know, yes, you count in Berkeley, not at your parents. Not where your
That's
parents
right.
live.
Correct.
Awesome. Any other questions? Great. Well, for the rest of, so we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to pull up our ambassador program. So if anyone's interested in signing up right here and now, then please do sign up for our ambassador program. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming, and I will be sending all of the materials that you saw today via email. So if you signed in, then I've got your email down, and then I've got you, Martha, on the phone. I got your email. You'll get everything as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Equality California.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Can you?
Alicia, can I have a shout out because all the jobs available? We are pushing the recruiting. We have 8 areas office in the Bay Area. The Oakland ones we know, and the Concord have one, the Pleasant Oakland one too. So on the East Bay. So we have a lot of jobs available from the.
Are these available now?
They are available. They are open now.
The
candidate have to apply. Alicia, you mentioned that too. So we have to apply right now to be ready. When we ready in the board to pick up.
Are there jobs that start now as well? Some that start now.
The application started right now.
But
the extra came in census checker.
You're not hiring for outreach positions.
There are some outreach positions too.
That will happen sooner than March.
Yeah, it's all depends because we have different kind of positions. Census checker gonna start in after March, right?
Right.
But we also have the office, clerk, recruiting manager, recruiting assistant, office supervisor positions too. Some of positions immediately available.